All right, so welcome to today's podcast. This is Scott Engler, published author and thought leader on career transition and really optimizing LinkedIn as one of the most effective resources right now where recruiters are finding top candidates to attract the right opportunities to you on your LinkedIn to find new opportunities. So today, the topic is pretty to the point, how to manage data overload while job searching. So here's the deal. We're all, most of us, especially if you're living in a part of the world where you're using a computer a lot and doing lots of work online, you are probably experiencing what many of us are, which is the data overload. Data overload is just the amount of information that we are seeing and needing to process on a daily basis is increasingly high. And it's affecting many of us in different ways and really could be a great creator of stress and overwhelm if you don't learn to manage it properly. How it pertains to job searching is really what I want to address today. So basically, I want to share a recent experience I had and how this recent experience I had really correlated with a lot of the conversations I was having with job seekers that really weren't getting the types of results they wanted. So recently, I was looking for housing, like I was looking for a house to rent, and I was going on different sites like Zillow and kind of looking at homes in my area and, contacting property management companies and really, setting up times to check out places. And so what I found is I knew it was going to be a time-consuming process. And the other thing that I found, one of the biggest challenges was it wasn't that there wasn't any availability for houses. It was just that I was getting so many different calls and emails about different opportunities, and it became really challenging and time-consuming to try to process all this information and sort through and filter out while I'm running my own business, right? And so I found that I was really unproductive in my business the last couple of weeks as I was looking for housing, and between looking at houses that I might be interested in, between funneling phone calls and listening to voicemails of different realtors and all this, it was a lot to take on, and it reminded me of job searching in a way, right? Because it is a lot of work. And it does take time and energy and focus. And so how it pertains is I generally work with people that are looking to get a new job when they're still working at their current role. So their challenge is that they're spending X amount of hours every week trying to look for new work on top of their existing job. And for any of you listening that could relate to this process, it is very, very challenging, right? And it's very challenging to stay consistent and effective and not have one of those areas get really out of balance really quickly. So one of the first things, I've done with clients is they may have been spending an average of about 10 to 15 hours on top of a full-time job and other obligations that they have to family, friends, whatever, looking for work. And so one of the first things we do is we really optimize the amount of time they're looking for work to usually about only 2 to 3 hours, and they start getting better results because we're really able to collaborate and work in a way that's very highly effective and efficient. And so the same process is happening even when it comes to sorting through opportunities. So a lot of times when I talk to people that are well accomplished, maybe they're VP, executive, director of operations, sales manager, they are getting a lot of opportunities to them, but the problem is that A, a lot of them aren't really what they're looking for, and B, it's just a lot of work to sort through all the different opportunities. So something that I keep hearing recently when I talk to people is that they're like, Scott, well, I'm on a few different search boards and have my resume on recruiter.com and other places. And so I'm getting like 300 opportunities like every couple weeks maybe. And it's just really overwhelming to try to sift through all these different options I'm getting sent and to kind of process through and really where I need to move forward. But just the amount of pings I'm getting on like 3 different job search boards is overwhelming. And so what happens for most people is that they don't really make much progress because they're getting so many different opportunities sent to them from so many different areas that it becomes very overwhelming. And instead of filtering through and kind of going through it, it's just too much at once, and then they consequently are stagnant, right? And if you think about it for a second, that's the same thing, the problem that that companies were having with hiring candidates, and why they have gotten applicant tracking systems and these high-tech machines to filter through and do that work for them. Because it is, as one human being, it is extremely overwhelming to get like 200 applications coming at you in your email, and then it's like you can't even focus on the emails you have for your current job, and it just becomes you get so bombarded with so much at once that you don't know where to start. And so this is where it really helps. What I thought about before making this podcast was like, well, if I had somebody like a realtor or somebody that helped me get really clear on what I was looking for, and if they could help me get really clear on processing that, like for example on Zillow, I had to create a renter profile. So if I was able to really get really clear and I understood that platform and system to where this realtor was telling me, well, Scott, if you fill this out here this way, this is what you're going to probably get. If you do this, here's how you could really get be at an advantage. Because the truth is, it really was very much like what job seekers experience, because the market is hot for housing where I live. And so what a lot of people experience is they might find somewhere, and then within a day or two, someone else has applied and been approved for that house. And so it really becomes a matter of how do you really effectivize your time and create your profile in such a way that you attract the right opportunities to you, and you're able to get what you want, right? And so I'm a human just like everybody else, and my first thing is like, I don't have the time to like really put into this renter profile they have. I just want to find a place. I have so many other things to do. I don't have an hour to dedicate to this renter profile that Zillow's asking me to fill out. I just want to get the basic information on there and just start looking at places and kind of request tours and whatnot. And so that's, while that's a great first step, right? The truth is that it would have been a better service for me to really carve out the time with somebody that's experienced on using Zillow and get my renter profile dialed in to where, I would be getting contacted about housing before all the other applicants, right? How do I use that specific site to attract the opportunities to me and get dinged about the right opportunities sooner than other people that are applying? The truth is I have no idea because I'm not familiar with Zillow. And it's the same thing with LinkedIn, right? It's that while we may have some idea what we want, we have no idea how to use that specific platform or, what that process really works, like how it really works and how to effectivize it to really have the filtering then be done for us, so to speak, right? So taking out the extra time to do certain things to get the better result we want. Now, the truth is that we often don't know, and I don't know specifically if it's even worth my time to fill out the entire renter profile. I don't know where to put what information. I don't know necessarily what to put. I know some of the basics, but the truth is there's so much I don't know about how that system and process works of renting housing and applicants that somebody that's a realtor or someone that specializes in that does know about, right? And it's the same thing. So that's where I'm very clear, I wouldn't be the kind of person that would help someone fix their car because that's not where my skill set lies. But I do know a lot about using LinkedIn and that platform and its specifics and nuances and whatnot to help people land the right opportunities. And so it just really reminded me that that's a great way to manage this data overload, right? Because what I found that was happening for me is what job seekers say is, now I'm getting phone calls every hour on the hour. Now I'm getting emails all the time. I'm getting follow-up emails. I'm getting, all these different emails about these different places. I don't have the time to check out every single place where I could really focus. These emails are coming at all different times of the day. And so it's like, I only as a human being could really take on so many different emails and look at things before I become completely just like shut off, right? And there's other things I have to focus on during my day for my business. And then it just becomes this game of like sort of blindly looking at some opportunities and just having to like block out the rest. And the truth of that is that it's really not that great of a process because I am not looking at what my best options are. I'm not able to see all my best options clearly without having to go through so much information that'll affect the rest of my life significantly, right? So that's really where you can manage this data overload is like, okay, well, if you understand what strategies work better for the marketplace right now, if you understand what you want and how to communicate that, if you know how to really minimize and simplify the process to make it more effective, then you won't be as bombarded with all this data overload. And again, I think it's the same thing as like, so often we're in such a hurry, right? And we have so much coming at us that we're just like, I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to do this. And so I'm just going to like kind of pick and choose when I put in a little bit of time to apply places. And I don't have time to fill out my renter profile, and I'm just going to do the best I can with what I got. And while that's a great, noble, way to go about things, sometimes it's not great for long-term success and really getting what you're wanting and being able to make your life manageable, right? Because the truth is if you're an executive or something and the average amount of time to get a new job is 6 to 12 months, is the process that you're using sustainable? Is that going to be able to, are you going to be able to keep it up consistently? What most people find, absolutely not. The truth is that job searching, no matter what, it's work and energy, right? Interviewing takes energy, it takes focus. You got to freshen up things. You're going to be using parts of your brain that you haven't used in a while. It's time and energy consuming. So the goal really is, how do you make that process as manageable and potentially enjoyable, right, as possible? Because there are components that some people do find more enjoyable than others. But I feel like if we could really accept that it is going to take an effort on your part, but how do you really harness and channel where your energy goes to, again, make a system and process for you where you're able to manage the data overload and not get bombarded with too much and focus on your other day-to-day responsibilities at your current job. So that's really what I want to talk to you guys about today. I mean, that's the thing is, instead of, quick tip would be, instead of having your resume on 4 different job search boards where you're getting 300 emails, why don't you just start with 1 maybe? I mean, and then see what kind of opportunities you're going to get, and that'll be a little bit more manageable. I would recommend the best first strategy. Of course, I'm biased in the line of work I do, but when over 95% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to find top talent, and online job boards are yielding like around a 2% response rate to online applications, I think it's pretty clear to me where you would effectivize your first strategy, which would be getting your LinkedIn profile dialed in. And the beauty of that is that if you put in the extra time and your resources on doing this, and you obviously consult with somebody that is an expert on using LinkedIn, because again, it's just like what I had to go through applying for housing. There's over 500 million people on LinkedIn, over 500 million people. How many of those people are actively looking for jobs? A good chunk of them. And if you're looking for, a solid role as like a COO, project manager, VP, I mean, the level of competition is ridiculously fierce. And so you need to know and understand this specific platform to separate yourself and get noticed. And that's really what it comes down to. And I think most people don't actually take the time or realize how things actually work. If you understood that a recruiter is spending an average of 10 seconds looking at your profile, if you understand that recruiter will not even know you exist if you don't know how to opt your profile in a way to show up in the top 5 to 10 search results of the role you're looking for and the area you're looking for, then you're not going to hear squat. And so how do you stand out from the competition? How do you learn to do things differently? Well, like anything, you do what other people aren't willing to do. Other people aren't willing to put in the extra effort. Other people aren't willing to, seek out a professional. They just kind of go at it on their own, and they think they know what they're doing. And the truth is, when we ask ourselves honestly, we usually don't really know what we're doing. But we're humans, and we can be pretty prideful. And then it's just about how big of a priority is it to you? How important is this to you? So if it's not that important, then maybe it doesn't make sense to work with someone outside to help you, get a new job. But if, getting a new job for you right now is very important, and you're beginning to understand that it's not going to happen overnight for most people, that the average time is 6 to 12 months for an executive senior level role, then look at those things and look at them honestly and say, well, do I want to work with somebody that specializes in this? Because the truth is, many people don't, or they're not aware of who really understands what they're doing in the industry, and therefore they end up in the majority of people that either spend that 6 to 12 months or even longer trying to find something, or they don't really find something better. And so they continue to suffer at their current job until they get, laid off, or, I have clients that have come to me literally because their workplace got so toxic. They're involved in like potential lawsuits and being accused of stealing money when they didn't, and crazy things. And so, I think my advice, if you're listening to this, is really take the time to ask yourself, like, what do I want? Look at the numbers. Don't just take my word for it. Look at how long it takes, for most people to get an executive level role. See if you could take being at your company for another 6 to 12 months. If you can, and no problem, maybe you don't need any help right now. Maybe you can kind of chip away at it. But if you think that you do want to do that, and, you'd want to shave your time in half that that it takes to get a new job, like 3 months. I've had clients take as little as 2 weeks, but that was definitely the exception to the rule. But anywhere 6 weeks, a couple months. So it really does make a huge difference when you are collaborating with somebody that specializes in that specific area and knows the ins and outs of it and knows what to do, so they could help you navigate through it a lot quicker, because most people don't, and most people therefore aren't standing out from the crowd. So that's really what I wanted to address today. I'm well aware that people have different needs at different times and what their priorities are. I do want to mention, I don't want to get too salesy here, but I hope this podcast was helpful for you, at least in getting some next steps here. I did want to let people know that are listening that I do have a Thanksgiving promotion going off of my LinkedIn profile optimization, branding, and level 1 networking service. It's the biggest discount I've had ever on this particular package. So it's $300 off of this package until Thanksgiving. So if you're listening and you're like, what Scott's saying is true, I really need to step things up, this is your chance, right? It's like, why wait? Why put off till tomorrow something that you could do right now? Shoot me a message on LinkedIn with the headline "Serious Inquiry." I'll kind of put the instructions below in the information box as well. and put serious inquiry and say, Scott, I want to, move forward with optimizing my LinkedIn to find something new. And I'm taking phone calls tomorrow. It's Tuesday right now. I'm obviously not working on Thursday. If you get in touch with me, highly recommend do it as quickly as possible. Please send me an email because I do get a lot of messages, and so that's kind of my way to filter through things. I'm not going to likely see your message otherwise. So other than that, I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I do hope that this information was helpful regardless. And until next time, take care.